is known quite a bit. It was written by Charles Dickens and was published in 1843 in England. Let us pray. Lord, let your Spirit be upon us, that we may learn and grow, and most of all be inspired and renewed in your word. In Jesus' name. Amen. For those not familiar, this Christmas story is with Scrooge, and he has the three different visitations of the ghostly characters and all that. And that goes on. That was written in 1843, the same year a guy named Miller in the United States was calling for the end of the world, the second coming of Christ. And when it got to be March 21st in 1844, 1 year later, they decided, oh, I guess he's not coming. This followed. Miller then did one of the early uses of the word recalculate. Okay, I made that up. But this I did not make up. They honestly called the following year, 1844, the year of disappointment, because Jesus' second coming did not happen. From that, Miller went on and created the Seventh-day Adventist. Following that, within the decade following, in the 1850s, the United States, our Congress was fighting so much at one point they got into a fist fight. I don't know that we're that far from And in 1861, we had a terrible moment because we went into a civil war for the next 4 years. My point is that Dickens did not write in a world where everything was easy, where everything nice, and everybody had enough. It wasn't like that. It was a time of difficulty, just as some face today. Some, obviously, more than others. Now, it's kind of interesting that of all the days we picked out, we as a culture and religion, picked out to celebrate the birth of Christ, birth of Jesus, we pick out December 20th. We have 365 days, and we pick out December 25th, 4 days after the shortest day of the year. And it should not be a surprise to us that due to this, in the secular version of Christian, or a secular version of Christmas, that hope and giving and care are projected quite a bit in the pseudo-secular Christmas. And that's a good thing. You may have noticed that certain commercial interests became well knowing of this, and I think they started announcing Christmas about, early November now? Or is it even before that? Before that. But I think you know this. Somebody sent me on Facebook that they already had craft stuff out for Valentine's Day last week. Something wrong with that. All would agree, I think, that giving and hope and caring are really good for our society. In fact, without it, we're in trouble. And we like the cultural story, but if you mix up the cultural story of Christmas, the one that's done in the stores, various things like that, it's about like having a tofu turkey for Thanksgiving. It's there, it may have some of the looks, but it's just not the same. Hallmark Channel has lovely movies. You've seen a few. And they are there to get us in the commercial, or I should say the secular version of Christmas. They give these beautiful stories, and the thing is they make them so that a Jew or a Muslim or atheist would not be offended, because there's no Jesus in the Hallmark stories. They're really just romantic stories that are very, very nice. I like them. That happen to happen at the time of Christmas. So, to confuse the secular version of Christmas is kind of like having a large lump of soy and throwing about 3 pieces of bacon on it and calling it a turkey. It's just not the same thing. heard the Christmas story before. You've heard from Luke. Tonight, we celebrate this. Monday, we'll open the gifts. Then the next day will come. The days after that. Pretty soon we're up to 2018. Then we're going to be taking down the decorations, apparently without the help of the kids. And then we'll move on. Babs and I were recently out at Outer Banks. We took a little time off. And we walked up the dunes at Johnson Point. And we went out and kind of went from one dune. Oh, let's just do one more. There's probably people still lost doing that. But as we were coming back, I noticed that the footprints we made in the sand, because of the wind that was blowing, were already starting to be covered up, just in that very short time. And it seemed to me that's a bit of an analogy, because time is going to come and go, and then it's gone. And it's like the imprint is covered over, and before long, it's not there. Time horizon is a phrase I still have in my head from Paul Simon from long ago. I ask tonight for you to consider what you're going to take home. Not just the story of hearing it, but what it means in our lives. We have tonight the Luke chapter 2 text. The irony is, of all the Gospels, this one is probably written by a Gentile, not a Jew. And so when you consider that it was written by a Gentile, it only makes sense that it begins with, in those days a decree went out from Caesar Augustus, Emperor Augustus, and the world should be registered, and they will first register, and they'll go to their city of origin, while Irenaeus was in place. So the thing that he starts out with is something that the secular non-Jew would relate to. A census that was designed for the purposes of taxation and military use. Now, just like then, life can be really good if you're at a certain level. And if you're at another level, it can be a struggle. In the paper this last week, they said, I was blown away by this, 1/3 of Americans already have so much debt that they're already in collections. 1/3. And 10% of Americans, at the other end, own 83% of the U.S. stock or control that. Jesus was born into a Jewish family in a Roman world. And the fact that they have this baby in with the animals, I think we can safely assume they were not of the upper crust. The only thing really different about this couple, they're going down. You see, they would have gone along, they would have had to go down, maybe half a day's walk, down to the river. Then they would walk south along the riverway for about a day. And then the next day, they come up about a 3,000-foot incline. And she's doing that on a donkey. I think it's only reasonable to expect that she's going to have a baby very soon. And that's what happens. Really, the only thing that separates these people is, one, the mother has had a visitation from an angel. The father, who was going to kick her out, has had a dream from God. And the mother went to visit an aunt who was miraculously pregnant. They go to have the baby. Now, in those days, the word went out. Today, it would be online. At that time, it was with an angel. And the angel chorus comes out. But I find it interesting that the angel does not go to the head rabbi. He does not go to Caesar. He does not even go to the local governor. He goes to shepherds. Remember when I was talking about the high and the low end? Shepherds down here. These are the guys they put out in the field. They're supposed to watch the people's investment, which is those sheep. They don't have so much paper money. And they got to be willing to put their lives on the line because they got to be ready to take on a lion or whatever else with nothing but a stick. And that's the guys at the low end of the pay point. I got to tell you, I know a little bit what that's like. Not much, but a little. We were in Tanzania. And we had a break from our usual visiting of the ministries, so we were in this park, animal park, and there were lions. You could hear them roaring at night. And we're walking from the lodge restaurant there along this ridge, just a little short distance, and we come out, and there's, we're going to our tents, and it's at night. And I asked the guy that's escorting us, somebody who was native to Tanzania, I said, what protection do you have against lions? I can hear them in the background. He says his flashlight. I was deeply troubled. So we got these shepherds. They're out there putting their lives in line. They see the angels, and these tough guys who can take on a lion with a stick, they are petrified when the angels show up. And then the word of God is announced to them. This child has been born. The son is given. And he's in this little town. And he's wrapped up in this little cloth. And they put him in a manger. I've stood at that field where they think the shepherds were. It's not particularly outstanding. There's a lot of rocks. There's some dirt and grass. And there's a cave off to one side where they probably stayed most of their times. And this hillside where this thing is just outside Bethlehem, which is a little bit south and west of Jerusalem. And 30 years later, the guy born there would go just a little north there at Jerusalem, and he would break bread at the Seder. And he was so surprised his colleagues because he would say, "This is my body broken for you." And you see what's astounding about that is Bethlehem, which is more like the Hebrew pronunciation, means house of bread. And the little baby is born in the house of bread, and he's laid in a manger, and he would come and say, "This is my body broken for you." Whether you're part of the top 10% or the bottom third, when it comes to finances, whether you're towards the beginning of your life or closer to the end, I pray that when you take the bread tonight, when you take the word home tonight, that you may know that God's Spirit goes with you, that you may be renewed this day and always, and as the days go by, you may know there's a greater Spirit and a more powerful Spirit that can give you hope, that can drive you forth in joy and strength, even enough to give to care for others. Merry Christmas.